Thank you for having me here tonight, and thank you to you, Danielle, and the entire team for setting this all up. And a bit of background about me. I'm originally adopted from Romania by a German family when I was 2 years old, and we moved 13 years ago as a family to New Zealand. And as Danielle mentioned earlier, I've done a bit of a TEDx talk, talk before, and I've also got an interest in adoption advocacy and done a bit of work in the private sector and the non-for-profit. And today's topic is going to be about the intersection of the private sector and the youth development sector. And I'm going to especially focus on what are some 3 commonalities, but also the differences and what they can learn from each other, and maybe something to think about. So first of all, so what is the similarities? So both the private sector and the youth sectors, they want to make some kind of impact. So they want to make some kind of impact, be it financial or on the youth. Then the other one is they have to work both with resources. But one is, generally monetary, but the other one is like equipment. So for instance, like Peter mentioned earlier on, cameras. So that's resources. And the last bit is they both look at the private sector look at clients, and the youth sector, they look at the youth that they're impacting on. And what makes the private sector really unique, or the points of difference is in the youth sector, is when you look at the private sector, the first thing is in terms of impact, traditionally they were monetary based, focused traditionally, so they were looking for things like, what's the bottom line? Whereas the youth sector is focused on what's the impact on the youth, especially on things like their well-being, which is New Zealand's been applauded for that at the beginning of the year. And youth has been identified as one of the most important areas to invest in. However, regarding that, in terms of the private sector focusing only on the bottom line, there has been a change on focusing on the triple bottom line, which is focusing on things as the monetary value, but also the social and environmental impact. And even global big corporates where you would be like, would you trust them? Even the likes of BlackRock have mentioned in their recent annual report saying that they actually advise their shareholders to look at the triple bottom line. The next bit is resources. The private sector really tries to focus on getting the people to really maximize the resources to getting return for their dollar spent, whereas sometimes the youth sector, the community sector, they sometimes can be more just focused on creating an impact. And the last bit is who are they serving? The private sector generally serves the customers, or whoever it is providing the service to, and the other one is for the youth. And what can they learn from each other? Basically, the private sector can learn from the youth sector that there's actually more than just a monetary value impact that can be made, but actually a whole societal value can be impacted, especially the youth. Especially in regards to the New Zealand well-being budget, the area of investing in youth around areas of mental well-being has profound impact because it translates into productivity. Because, for instance, New Zealand has got about half the productivity than that of Scandinavian countries such as Denmark. So by actually investing in youth, you are indirectly actually having even a long-term commercial and GDP impact. For instance, because of mental well-being, New Zealand annually loses between 7 and 9 billion New Zealand dollars in annual possible GDP. And then the other bit is resources. That's, I think, what sometimes the youth sector can learn from, is that the private sector sometimes found a way on how can they actually get the most return for their resources. And I think it's a lot of really innovative private youth organizations are focusing on delivering low but high impact projects. So that's really interesting to see. And the last bit is who you're serving. And I think that's also something where they both can learn from each other, because sometimes they're just focusing on, taking like business traditionally, some business take a top-down approach, but then the other ones, they generally take a community approach, like earlier on was mentioned by Catherine, working with communities together, which I think is really interesting to see. And a personal example of that is in my current role at the Warehouse Group, where I work as a community initiatives coordinator, working on research and project implementation, where we recently partnered with Plunkett to impact the bottommost 5% of vulnerable families by delivering 2,400 baby boxes to 18 locations across New Zealand of a value of $250,000. And it was really interesting to see how we interacted with Plunkett and seeing the different, sometimes the different priorities and expectations, but also seeing how we managed in the end to align it and deliver the project. Thank you.
Sweet. I was really excited to hear that Alex is from Romania, because my husband and I met nearby in Ukraine.